chronic stable angina in a diabetic, what is the best strategy? That is what I am going to discuss today. We should understand that acute coronary syndrome and chronic coronary syndrome are different entities. Acute coronary syndrome, you have STEMI, NSTEMI, and unstable angina. And what is common for these three is an unstable plaque. There is a ruptured plaque. In STEMI, there is an occlusive thrombus. In non-ST elevation, acute coronary syndrome, again you have ruptured plaque, but it is a subocclusive thrombus. But when it comes to chronic coronary syndrome, that is the current terminology for chronic stable angina, CCS. Look at the cross-section of the coronary artery. It is actually a fibrotic plaque. Ordinarily, it is not an unstable plaque, which is prone for rupture and activation of the platelets and the coagulation cascade. This is an oversimplification. We should understand that even in chronic coronary syndrome, strictly you call it chronic coronary syndrome beyond 12 months. And if you follow patients for 3 years, that is 36 months, the event rate is around 15%. If you look at the cardiovascular mortality, MI or stroke, which you call as the 3-point MACE. And it is despite very good treatment with dual antiplatelets, statin, beta blocker, and ACE inhibitors or ARBs. When you tell about optimal medical treatment, we have the antiplatelet. Usually in chronic coronary syndrome, it is a single antiplatelet. High intensity statin, beta blocker, nitrate, calcium channel blocker, ACE inhibitors are required in many patients. And of course, good control of hypertension and diabetes. The second line anti-anginal agents like nicorandil, trimetazidine may be used in some patients. And a recent addition to the optimal medical treatment, you will be aware of the COMPASS trial, that is the vascular dose of rivaroxaban, 2.5 milligram BID in selected patients. Let us come to something basic. Why should we treat chronic coronary syndrome? Number one, the patient should feel better. He should be made fairly asymptomatic. And number two, we should be able to prolong his survival. So feeling better and living longer. And the very important question, we should be able to reduce the progression of disease and induce regression. We should clearly understand that with our intervention, we cannot address that. We cannot reduce the progression of atherosclerosis nor produce a regression of atherosclerosis. This is possible only with medical management. Now, one very important point. There is a difference between angina and ischemia without angina. Angina is more prognostic than ischemia in stable CAD. Because many times a totally asymptomatic patient undergoes a treadmill, no symptom, ST depression in the ECG, that is silent myocardial ischemia. But probably that is less sinister compared to someone who has angina. And that has been consistently shown. Cardiovascular death, non-fatal MI, everything is more in people with real angina compared to someone with asymptomatic ischemia, which is detected. And how can you assess ischemia? Basically two things. One is the anatomical imaging with the CT coronary angiography and the invasive coronary angiography, and physiological testing. The simple one will be the exercise treadmill testing. It has a lot of limitation, but you have the more refined things like the myocardial perfusion imaging, the echo, stress echocardiography, SPECT, CMR, PET, everything like that. Now, risk stratification is important in chronic coronary syndrome because the annual risk of death or MI in low risk individual is less than 1%. You don't have to be very aggressive with them. Whereas you have a group which come in the high risk category, in whom the annual risk is more than 3%. A lot of trials have compared angioplasty with medical therapy in stable CAD. Long list. And finally, what did they find? Mortality and MI, there's no difference. If you look at angina relief, PCI is certainly beneficial. Quality of life is better with PCI. Repeat revascularization, there is some benefit with PCI. So that is the conclusion of all these trials, starting from RITA 2 up to COURAGE, trial which came in 1999. Old trial, but just one point. This is the AWARD trial in which people compared angioplasty versus 80 milligram of atorvastatin. Those days, high intensity statin was not a standard. And they found that high intensity statin is better than angioplasty in reducing the event rate. Sorry, something happened. Okay. Okay. So who are the people who are really benefited by revascularization? People have looked into that. And if you look at the quantum of ischemia, how much is the total ischemic myocardium? If the total ischemic myocardium is more than 10%, then such people are benefited by revascularization. If the total ischemic myocardium is more than 20%, significant benefit by revascularization. And total ischemic myocardium less than 10%, medical management is better or at least equally good. Then people thought, let us look at the physiology. There's something called FFR, fractional flow reserve. You are finding out whether a lesion is physiologically significant or not. Very important trial, the FAME2 trial. FFR guided PCI versus medical management in stable CAD. What did they find? When you take death from any cause, total mortality, there's no difference between medical management and PCI. When you take myocardial infarction, even FFR-guided PCI, there's no difference between PCI and optimal medical management. But when it comes to urgent revascularization, there is a significant advantage for PCI. Look at the p-value, look at the confidence interval. So the real benefit of intervention is not reducing mortality. It is not really reducing MI. It is not reducing stroke. It is symptomatic relief and reduction in repeat revascularization. And finally, the ischemia trial, which was published very recently, a large trial, 37 countries, 320 sites, more than 5,000 patients randomized, presented in November 2019. Patients initially had a stress testing. Then they had a coronary CT angiogram. People with left main disease were excluded. Then they were randomized into two groups. One group had conservative treatment. And if it was successful, they were continued on that. They did not have an invasive angiogram or intervention. The second group had invasive evaluation and had an intervention if required. Now, please remember that more than half of the patient had severe baseline inducible ischemia. And even after intervention, the medication use did not differ between the two groups. Beta blocker, calcium channel blocker, anti-anginal medication was slightly less in the group who had revascularization. And the dual antiplatelet was actually more following the PCI. And when they looked at the primary outcome, cardiovascular death, MI, hospitalization for unstable angina, heart failure, resuscitated cardiac arrest, at the end of 4 years, no significant difference. Cardiovascular death or MI, again, no significant difference. All-cause mortality, the two curves are overlapping. You cannot differentiate them. And look at any parameter, whether it is stroke or resuscitated cardiac arrest or heart failure, absolutely no difference. And look at the diabetic group. 41.8% of the people in the ischemia trial were diabetic. Was there any benefit by intervention? 11.4% in the people without diabetes, 16% in the people with diabetes. Between conservative arm and interventional arm, very little difference, not statistically significant. And proximal LAD, 46.8% of the people did have proximal LAD. And before I conclude, detection of ischemia in asymptomatic diabetic, very often done as part of the executive checkup and all that. People undergo coronary CT angiogram, people undergo treadmill testing and all that. This is a very old trial, but critically looked at that and found that it is not really beneficial, which is endorsed by the ADA guideline. In asymptomatic patients, routine screening for CAD is not recommended, as it does not improve outcome as long as ASCVD risk factors are treated properly. But do investigate in the presence of symptoms. Do investigate them or in the presence of ECG abnormality. So let me conclude my talk. Acute coronary syndrome and chronic coronary syndrome are different. CCS is a heterogeneous group. OMT is a good initial option in low risk group. Not that you should continue them on OMT as a good initial option, but high risk group require aggressive evaluation. CT coronary angiography may be a good initial investigation to rule out left main disease before we decide on initial medical management. And no evidence till date to investigate asymptomatic diabetic people for CAD. And finally, what are the indications for early coronary angiogram and intervention in a diabetic? Number one, unacceptable angina despite medical therapy. Number two, left mainstem disease. Number three, heart failure or LVEF less than 35% with multivessel disease and viable myocardium. Important, viable myocardium. Number four, recent ACS. Up to what point? Maybe initial 3 months. And number five, PCA or CABG within 1 year. Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity and this kind invitation.